Hello and welcome to the ABC Book Reviews Podcast video podcast. I'm Carrie.
I'm Beth.
And today we're talking about The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. This book was popular a few years ago. It was very popular in the library where we work. Mm-hmm. And it was a sensation because Stieg Larsson had passed away shortly before the book was published. So it was just a sad thing because there were 3 books total: The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Played with Fire, and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. Mm-hmm. And they all came out like once a year for 3 years. And everybody was really into them. Like they couldn't wait for the next one to come out.
I think the reason why these were so popular was because there was almost an amount of sensationalism with it. There were some pretty graphic scenes. And it was just an interesting story. It's this like a psychological thriller mystery, which, you know, is pretty popular genre.
I think we were just talking about the main characters, Michael Blomkvist and Lisbeth Salander. They're in Sweden, and there's a lot of intrigue. They're connected in a certain way. Basically, Blomkvist is accused of slander because he said some things about a finance huge corporation. And he was found guilty, and so he has to go into exile. But then he is called on to help investigate a murder, and so he gets embroiled in this situation.
It was a disappearance.
Oh yeah,
the main character who hires him to investigate was his granddaughter's disappearance.
And it was years ago, 50 years ago.
Everyone thinks that she drowned when there was, what was it, a flood or some kind of natural disaster or something. And she went missing. And he thinks that she was possibly kidnapped because he gets these things in the mail. He thinks that either the killer or the kidnapper is tormenting him with these things that he's sending him in the mail. And so anyway, he goes in to investigate. Her character is really unique. She's got a really checkered past, and she's been in trouble, but she's a genius. So
she's a hacker. Yeah. And she has investigated Blomkvist for her employer, who's a private investigator. So they get linked up, and there is a very complicated story about Lisbeth's past and her father throughout the 3 books. And it's a really good series. It's really evocative about the country of Sweden, and the characters are very well developed.
And it is very graphic. I know that a
lot of violence.
Yeah, there's a lot of violence. There's some disturbing scenes. Mm-hmm. But I think that's one of the reasons why it became so. I wouldn't say it was popular, but it was also a lot of times, these books become really popular because of the shocking and graphic nature of some of the content. But we did have something we wanted to share with you, and the reason why we're talking about this book, even though it's a little bit older, is that there's going to be a 4th book published in this series.
David Lagercrantz, who is a Swedish author, and it will be published in August 2015. So it will be the same characters, but it will be written by somebody else.
I think that's really That's a really interesting concept. We have a lot of fan fiction where people continue on series because the author's not going to write anymore. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think that's good.
Yeah. So what do you read next if you've read all 3 of these books and you want something else? Snow White Must Die by Nelle Newhouse.
I actually kind of stumbled upon this book in Goodreads, and I wasn't really looking for a read-alike, but once I started reading it, I'm like, this is not exactly, but it's similar to Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So the basic premise of this book is it's another contemporary mystery bestseller. It's a detective novel where Pia Kirchhoff and Oliver von Bodenstein are summoned to the mysterious traffic accident. A woman has fallen from a pedestrian bridge onto a car driving underneath. And the mystery behind it is, did she jump or was she pushed? And it's there's a lot of suspense and mystery behind it, and it's very it just reminded me a lot of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but maybe with there wasn't as much graphic scenes to it. So maybe if you're hesitant to read Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, or you didn't like it because of that aspect of it, then I think you would really like Snow White Must Die. It is the first in a series, although I don't know if the second in the series has been published in English yet.
I think that a lot of the appeal from the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo comes from the setting and the writing, and a lot of these same factors can be found even in books that are set in other countries. So there are some other Swedish mysteries out there. There's UC Adler Olsen, that series, and then there's Joe Nesbo, which that one might not be actually Swedish. That one might be a different one. But there's a lot of them out there. And then there's also, I wanted to mention Tana French, who writes books that are set in Ireland, and the same sort of thing. The setting's very evocative, the writing's very good, and the best one is the first one, In the Woods. And that one is about, again, a missing girl, and they're trying to figure out what happened. And there's a detective with a checkered past, and he had a similar situation happen to him in the past, and he's just a sympathetic character, but also somebody who's done bad things. And that's kind of like Blomkvist and Salander are the same way. Salander certainly is not an innocent in those stories. So if you like that kind of a character where they're
complicated.
Complicated. That's the best way to put it, because they're not necessarily like completely likable.
Yeah.
But you empathize because nobody's perfect.
Right. Here's a couple other books. There's another one called The Ice Princess.
Lackberg. Camilla
by Lackberg. The dark secrets of a small Swedish community are revealed as a woman returns to her hometown after the death of her parents and the suicide of a childhood friend. That's another one that might appeal to you. There's another one called Red Wolf by Lisa Markland. Spate of killings began with the murder of Swedish journalist, Prom's crime reporter Annika Bengtsson, to look into the deaths in an investigation that forces her to question her husband's honesty. So really, there's a lot of really good books out there that are similar. If you like, mystery and suspense and
dark
dark
foreign mysteries.
This is definitely not your Stephanie Plum mystery here. So if you liked this video podcast, you can find more of our podcasts that are a lot lengthier. You can find us on iTunes. Just search for ABC Book Review Podcast, or you can visit abcbookreview.com.